On my recent trip to Malaysia, I took over 6,000 photos, but I ended up bringing back something even more powerful than these captured memories. I accidentally discovered a missing piece of my identity. How much of our sense of identity is connected to the country in which we spend the first years of life? 30 years ago, I was born here in Australia, but somehow, for some reason, I never felt a sense of belonging here. On this basis, I travelled for the first time to my parents' country of birth, Malaysia, to see if I would feel a sense of belonging there. In Malaysia, my relatives told me a story I'd never heard before. They told me that they had seen me before in Malaysia as a baby, and that in fact the first 2 years of my life were spent in Malaysia, not Australia. How my parents in Australia had an unplanned pregnancy when they were still international students, and that they were quite poor, and decided that the best thing to do was to send me, their newly born child, overseas to be cared for by my grandparents in Malaysia. In Malaysia, I formed an especially close bond to my grandmother, and she made me my first pillow and blanket. After 2 years, my mother came over to Malaysia to take me back to Australia, and so that I would feel more at home in my new country, they let me take the blanket and pillow that my grandmother made for me back to Australia. Once back in Australia, my parents found I did a strange thing at night. I took the blanket and pillow my grandmother had made for me. I opened the door of the house, and I went wandering the dark streets. My parents followed me some distance behind, as they were wondering where I was going. Apparently, I walked for long distances until I was too tired, and my parents carried me home. What was I doing? Where was I going? What I was doing was looking for my grandmother. And when I finally made it back to Malaysia, when I finally found her again, I found out that I had been a few years too late. I wonder if we are ever able, as adults, to recapture the sense of home that we felt as a child. Or do we just go on searching forever?